Kawhi Leonard is weird. That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. If you enjoy it, leave a like rating on it. Check out the socials right there. My name is Tucker. Let's go and get into it. Kawhi Leonard. This guy wins the award for weirdest enigma in the entire league. I don't think anybody ever has any idea what's going on with Kawhi. He just exists in his own little realm. And we've had players like that. Especially kind of the modern NBA superstars, very independent. I mean, LeBron has a million different medical people following him around, and Tom Brady in the NFL has his own little medical group, and these guys become more and more independent entities, and they've established their own brands outside of their own teams, and all that stuff is just normal and it's commonplace, but nobody does it the way that Kawhi Leonard does. And it's getting to the point where it's really detrimental to his team and opens up a discussion about the cost of having Kawhi Leonard on your team if you're the LA Clippers. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So where did this conversation even start? What am I even talking about? Well, the Kawhi injury stuff has kind of gone under the radar because it's the finality of it has come out, weird wordplay there by me, during the finals. So it's been kind of under the radar. So Kawhi hurts his knee in the playoffs, doesn't play in the conference finals. Nobody knows what's going on. He's listed as day-to-day for every game, and then he's out. And then we find out, a month later, a month after the injury, a month plus, that he had a partially torn ACL, and he's out for 9 months. He's going to miss most of next season. Hello? What? We couldn't have found this out? Was the MRI machine not working? I don't understand how you were day-to-day with a partially torn ACL. And by all reports, the Clippers had no idea what was happening. They just knew that Kawhi had a knee injury. And if a guy wants to make his own individual decision about what to do medically, especially with the reported history that he had with guys in San Antonio and distrusting doctors and whatever, cool, that's fine. But it also comes into play, the team gets to make their own decision then about whether or not it makes sense to have you on their basketball team if you are being that withholding with information that not only kind of your teammates need to know about if there's the possibility of you returning or not in the postseason when you're in the conference finals. They were 2 games short of making the finals. They had no idea if Kawhi Leonard was going to return at any point, but also you waited a month. You're going to miss most of next season. You wait a month for the surgery, and I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs that went into that decision medically or personally or whatever the case may be. It's just odd, okay? And it's just very strange how close to the vest he plays this injury stuff as an NBA athlete. It's very, very odd. And it also plays into his upcoming contract because we've been discussing a lot of free agency possibilities with Kawhi. Would he opt out and go to Dallas or Miami or New York, whatever the case may be? I ultimately think that Kawhi is where he wants to be. He wants to be in LA geographically. He wants to be with the Clippers. There's a reason he did not go to the Lakers because he does not want to be the Robin to LeBron's Batman. And he cares about stuff like that, which it just is, all of that is just a very interesting calculation when it comes to the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi's leaving. I think the only scenario in which Kawhi would have considered leaving the Clippers in free agency was if they lost to Dallas in the first round. A team that they chose to play and a team that they felt good about their matchup in after the disaster that was the playoffs the year before. Losing in the first round, he could have been fed up and been like, this is just not going to work here. I got to go. So I think he's staying. But if you're the Clippers, here's what's probably going to happen. I've looked into this. By all reports, here's what's probably going to happen with Kawhi, assuming he decides to stay in LA. By the way, nobody really knows what's going on with Kawhi at any point ever, medically, personally, free agency-wise, whatever. But this is the public assumption, is Kawhi's going to opt in to this 1-year deal. And then he's going to become a free agent in 22, with the idea being that once he becomes a free agent in 22, he's now hit this new threshold in terms of years of service in the NBA where he can sign a huge 5-year max at age 31 or 32, whatever the case may be. Whereas if he opts out this year and signs a max, then he would have to just sign a 4-year deal if he wanted the max. So he wants the extra year so he can opt in next year, hit this new threshold, then become a free agent in 22, re-sign with the Clippers. Everything's fine. Here's the problem. If you're the Clippers, let's take Kawhi Leonard's name out of this. Here's the situation you're put in. A player that has struggled to put together complete seasons for a couple of years, wiggled his way out of a situation in San Antonio that nobody had ever had an issue with how the Spurs ran things until Kawhi decided to leave, has left 2 different teams, San Antonio and Toronto, and has had lower body leg injury issues for like 5 years, is in his 30s, just missed the latter part of the postseason, and now wants to opt in to get a 5-year max at age 32, and you're going to be paying a 37-year-old with lower body injury issue history $45 million? Does that sound like a good idea? No. And here's the thing, though. Kawhi knows this. Kawhi is aware that there's the possibility that, I don't know if we want to do this, Kawhi. Like, this is kind of crazy. We never get any updates from you injury-wise, which was supposed to be in that last little rant, and I didn't put it in there. But you know what else Kawhi knows? He knows there's 29 other teams that would do it in a heartbeat if they were in position to bring in Kawhi. That's the power that Kawhi knows that he has, and I think that's where we're at, Kawhi. And if he cares about his legacy so much, this might be ultimately the legacy. He has taken the LeBron thing, the LeBron leverage thing, where, LeBron kind of pioneered this idea of jumping teams and constantly putting pressure on teams to build championship teams around him. And he, quite frankly, he killed like 2 different teams, Miami and Cleveland the first time, because they put all these assets into trying to put a competent team around him. And then they just fell apart out, really 3 different teams. And signing one-on-one contracts to constantly have leverage. Kawhi has taken that a step further because he's not even a fully durable, always playing all the time guy. And LeBron has been up until, the last 2 or 3 years in LA. And it's just a very concerning situation if you're the Clippers, but if you're the NBA in general. Like, this guy has every right to do what he wants to do personally and withhold medical information if he wants to and make his own decisions medically. And then, that puts the pressure on the Clippers to decide if that's the situation where they want to be in. Everything in life is a choice. And the Clippers have a choice to not bring back Kawhi Leonard. He has his player option. He can opt into it, and they can let him walk next offseason. Or they can trade him on the 1-year deal. All of those things are options. But they understand that there are also consequences to every choice. And the consequence of letting Kawhi Leonard leave in free agency would be devastating. The consequences of trading away Kawhi Leonard after signing a free agency deal with him would be devastating. And they know that they have locked themselves into this situation, and they probably knew it at the time that they traded for Paul George and signed Kawhi Leonard, and they would probably do it all over again, as would every other team in the league. And that is the mind-blowing part of this entire thing. That is what we have finally come to the conclusion of at the end of this video. The player leverage stuff, I have advocated for it since I've ever been on YouTube. I'm like, hey, player empowerment. Like, they should be able to do what they want to do. Teams always get to do what they want. They always prioritize themselves. Players should prioritize themselves as well. Kawhi might have taken it too far. He might have taken it to the point where whenever the new CBA rolls around or whatever new agreement they need to come to, they might point to this Kawhi situation and be like, hey, if we're going to be paying these guys $45+ million and they can change teams every other year and they can opt in and out, and every single time someone wants to get traded, they get traded and we never get good value back for them, then they got to tell us what's going on with them injury-wise, or they can't have their own medical teams or something. Like, I think at some point, and again, like, I'm not trying to be too on one side or the other of this. I've advocated for player empowerment stuff in the past, and maybe at this point, maybe we're taking it too far. Here's where I'm at. At some point, there's going to be repercussions from this. At some point, the owners of the league are going to step up and say, okay, player empowerment, that's cool. This is enough, though. Like, there has to be a line. These guys that own these NBA teams are not just going to continue to get rolled over like this. They're going to use the power that they have, right or wrong, to regulate and legislate the ability of players to continue to control everything about their own careers. That's a wild rant for me to go on right there, but that's where I think this Kawhi thing is heading. And I think it puts the Clippers in a really dangerous position because they know that without Kawhi, without Paul George, without at least getting value back for those guys in a trade, they're lost as a franchise. They have nothing. They don't have any path towards being a competent team for 7 years if either of those guys leave, if they get no value out of them. And so ultimately, it's kind of the perfect storm for Kawhi to choose and pick and choose whatever he wants to do it at whatever point he wants to do it. And that is just, for me, from the outside looking in, a terrifying, absolutely terrifying situation to be in as an NBA franchise. Whew, we got ranty there. That's the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like rating on it. Consider subscribing to the channel for more NBA content every single day. Socials are up there. Once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace, fellas.